So, how can the concepts of fixed and fluid help you become a better critical thinker? What is it to be fixed and fluid, and how can understanding those concepts really help you?
Well, fixed and fluid, fixed versus fluid, fixed and fluid,
Mm-hmm.
is a tool within the critical thinker's toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand fixed and fluid is to understand sort of the context in which the tool is used.
Mm-hmm.
If I am listening to you present me with an idea, if I'm listening, if I'm holding space for you to share something with me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm either going to hear it through a fixed position or a fluid position.
Mm-hmm.
So being fixed in this particular context is I have an idea about, or I have a belief or a perspective that I use currently to understand a certain topic.
Okay.
And if I'm very firm in that belief, if I'm very firm in its truth and in its factuality,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for me it's conclusive.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult for me to hold space in a fluid manner where I'm able to hear the the alternative approaches or the alternative possibilities.
Okay.
So when I think about fixed and fluid, I usually use that concept in my toolbox for when I'm making decisions about how I'm going to respond to things in life, such as what I'm getting and not getting,
Okay.
how circumstances are turning out.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, we go somewhere to get ice cream and they're out of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And, I pitch a full-on shit fit about it. And I'm very fixed on the fact that this place should have ice cream.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They serve
Yeah.
ice cream. And the fact that they have none is absolutely absurd. And I'm so fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so stuck. I'm so, in a way, rigid
Yeah.
in my belief that I'm not able to hold space for the fact that maybe ice cream isn't what's in service to me today. Maybe I'm supposed to go and have, something different.
Mm-hmm.
That there's something else that's going to be equally as fun or joyful or is important, and pleasurable in my life. But I'm so fixed on having this
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not fluid enough to allow for there to be any other possibility of anything that could be equally as satisfying.
Right.
Sometimes with people, and I deal with this a lot with psychotropics, I really encourage people to explore psychoactive plants.
Mm-hmm.
I believe through science, through personal experience, through clinical evidence, that psychoactive plants can be incredibly effective and powerful at the healing process for people who are emotionally injured,
Mm-hmm.
people who are having a difficult time letting go of something,
Yeah. Yeah.
or moving through something, or
Mhm.
past something.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes will come into contact with an individual who is very concerned
Mm-hmm.
about not having control.
Yeah.
They're very concerned that they won't be able to control themselves. They won't be able to control their environment, their choices, their reality. They won't be able to come back from wherever they're going.
Yeah.
And there's this great and sincere and genuine fear in people around control.
Yeah.
And this is very fixed. It's an incredibly fixed state of or mind state. And the fluid individual may come and say, hey, I'm really just open to whatever I discover. Because discovery is very difficult to create in a fixed state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost contradictory to fixed. It requires fluid.
Yeah.
I have to be able to move and just allow and just see what comes up in order to make a discovery. So I can't discover if my new favorite dessert is, banana bread, because I was so fixed on having ice cream, and because I didn't get it, I just said, fuck it, you know what, I'm done, I'm going home, I don't want anything, because I didn't get my ice cream. That's just a fixed state of mind. Everybody's been there, and everybody goes there at times when we have failed expectations, when things aren't, things we expect, conditions we expect, someone's word is broken, but it's always going to come down to something failed to meet our expectations, and now we have to be able to pivot, and that pivot, that ability to just simply transition, with the change of environment, the change of the circumstances, that requires fluidity. And a martial artist has to know how to apply fixed and fluid in moments, because it keeps changing. There are moments when you being fixed is going to stop a person from being able to overtake you. But there's also a moment where that fixed can be taken advantage of by another person who's being more fluid. They can turn your fixed position into their advantage. So it's crucial that you know how to allow this beautiful dance between fixed and fluid to emerge in your life, in your toolbox. As you're making decisions, as you're being critical, you're using this tool and you're saying, okay, am I approaching this in a very fixed way, or am I approaching this in a very fluid way? And is the fluid way I'm approaching this in service to me, or is the fixed way that I might approach this in more service? Because again, you don't know. And you're discovering. And you might find that your very fluid manner may actually be a disservice to you, because being so fluid about things may mean that you don't have enough structure, that you don't actually have enough critical, you might actually be so fluid that it's interfering with your critical analysis of the moment. And if you're incredibly fixed, it also might be interfering with your critical analysis, because now you're not just being fixed and critical, you're being difficult.
Right.
And difficult is almost the same as just being stubborn. You've just decided that you simply are not going to do this because it is your personal ethic, your personal right, your personal wrong. It's just, I don't do that. And I don't do that because I believe this, and through this belief, I act. And so it's like a person who says, I don't steal. And, maybe their child is dying and requires, I don't know, some pharmaceutical drug, and they've literally run out of money, and they've their child is literally going to die, and the only way they can get this is to take it. And you got to make that decision.
Right.
Am I going to take this right now and come back later and I'll pay you back? It almost reminds me of the police when in the movies, when they stop somebody in the road and go, I need to take your car.
Right.
Well,
right,
for the greater good, I need to take your car to stop this terrorist from blowing up the city.
Yeah.
You'll get your car back.
Yeah.
Or the city will pay for your car once I'm finished destroying it. Because I'm Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So are you, but you're sitting in the car, you're like, no, you will have to kill me to take this car. Because I don't believe that you should ever give anyone your car when they try to steal it from me. And this is what I mean about fixed and fluid. It's just you have to be able to make decisions using critical thinking that also allow for a certain amount of discernment and discretion. Have you ever gone somewhere and you were dealing with customer service and they were not giving you something simply because it's policy, but obviously the policy is completely absurd and is actually in contradiction to customer service?
Yeah.
And the person's like, sir, I'm sorry, I just can't do this. And you're like, oh my God, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
It'd be like me. I clearly look older than 21. There's no question in your mind. There's no person on earth that would make that distinction. There's no confusion. If I went into a bar and they refused to serve me because I forgot my ID, that would be absolutely absurd because the law, if the law says that they cannot serve anyone in the bar who doesn't have a valid ID, that makes sense. If the law says they cannot serve anyone under 21,
two different
that
things.
does not make sense. So they would need to use their discretion, which discretion is discernment, which is the ability for this individual to use critical thinking. And if you rob your citizens, your workforce, of being able to make critical decisions, what you do is produce stupid people. You produce people who don't have critical thinking skills, because what you're trying to do is actually suggest that they not use them. I don't want you to critically think. I want you to just tell the person they can't have a beer. And you're like, well, but they're clearly 82. And they don't have an ID, and the law doesn't say we need their ID. It only says we're required to serve people who are 21 and over. So this is critical thinking applied in a moment. And I keep using all of these different stories, as analogies to sort of deconstruct and reconstruct the application of fixed versus fluid. This person who won't serve me is being fixed, but their fixed thinking, as long as, again, it's not illegal, their fixed thinking is actually a disservice to themselves and to their establishment ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's so important that you understand fixed versus fluid and how to apply it as a tool on a daily basis. So you have to just keep checking in as you're critically thinking, am I approaching this experience or this decision, am I approaching this and am I being too fixed in my approach, or am I being fluid enough, or am I being fixed enough, or am I being, am I finding this beautiful balance between the two? And that's the dance.
And through the process, it's a dance as well. It's not just the entrance or the discovery of something, but once you're actually in the process of being in what you discovered, then you're probably going to need to dance around a little bit more.
Absolutely. And that's a beautiful way of sort of unpacking that further, which is saying, oh, and by the way, I might enter this pretty fluid, might find that I need to be a little more fixed when I find myself in the middle.
Exactly,
and that is the dance that we do. But all of that is going to be manageable as long as you stay in critical thought, as long as you stay aware
Yeah.
and in witness state to what is occurring.
Right.